It's so cute. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be reviewing the 24-volt DIY battery kit from Yixiang. My first battery build was actually a 24-volt battery, and I used one of those plastic toolbox totes that you buy in the hardware store. It was really flimsy, but it did do the job, but not very safe. Anyway, if I had known these existed, I would have definitely bought one. Let's take a look. Alright, looking at the front, we got our double M8 style battery terminals. We got double negative over here and double positive over here for easy paralleling. Got our grounding lug right here. Got our comms board right here, RS-485 and CAN bus, and our RS-485 PC for monitoring. I want to actually connect this up to the battery bank over there and see if we can get this to monitor on the same bus, if you will, as the 48-volt batteries. So not sure if it'll work, but we'll give it a try. Here we have the mounting hole for the display. It just snaps into place on this one. Very nice. The display will not come installed, so you'll have to install that. That's about the only thing you'll need to install. The box is about 25 to 30 pounds when not loaded. Coming around to the side, built-in handle here. Nice latches. These are actually larger than the actually no, these are the same latches that they use on the other 48-volt version, so that's nice. Nothing on the back. Top is nice and smooth. All the screws are inset, nice and flush. We got the typical mounting holes, so you can stack these on all four corners there. Looking at the other side, we got our latch and handle. So it's pretty basic. Nothing fancy. There's no circuit breaker on this one, but there is a built-in fuse inside. Let's pop the top. Alright, so the first thing we're met with is a nice top cover insulating piece of epoxy board secured by 4 M6 screws. Okay, next we have our PCB rails. Our A board is over here, lined up with our positive, and our B board down here lined up with the negative. We have 4 balance leads and a single temp sensor. Our solder connections are covered in glue. That's nice. Same thing on this board, 4 balance leads and a temp sensor. Alright, inside we got our BMS accessory box. We got our epoxy board and EVA tape. This did come nice and bundled up with this zip tie. When I took it apart, I broke the zip tie, but it does come nice and bundled up and it did not move. It was very secure in the box. In our accessory box, you're going to have the BMS display. This is the 3.5 inch, I believe, with the power button right here on the right side. Look at that, it just snaps into place. No screw knobs. We have our bridge bus bar, battery terminal covers, M6 bolts, and our bus bars, and some zip ties. These 4 screws that came in here, I don't know what these are for. I couldn't find a use for those. Perhaps we'll find out later. Alright, so for the epoxy boards, we got the 2 side pieces here. We got the 2 bottom pieces here. These are the front and back pieces. 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And this is actually the side separator. We'll cover this later. Okay, for the EVA tape, we got our cell separators. These go in between the cells. And we got our PCB pads. These go underneath the PCB. I don't know why they don't come pre-installed. They really should just pre-install these, because if they go through the effort of putting the PCB onto the rail, they really should just install these for us. So I was looking inside the box, and this box does not have a removable pressure plate. Take a look. Look, it's all one piece. Even this front piece here, it's all welded together. So it's a static box. The pressure on the cells is going to have to come from the EVA tape. The BMS itself is hanging off of the front plate, but it's mounted on its own separate plate. We can see the fire extinguisher mounted down there, and it's mounted inside the BMS area. So the aerosol is going to have to rise up and then flow over this plate and into the cell area. Same bus bars like we have in the 48 volt kit. They're all torqued with M6 bolts, torqued and marked. We have copper spanner bridge bars, so that's nice. Both sides on both positive and negative battery terminals. And it looks like we have a B-Series, the newer B-Series BMS. Down on the bottom there you can see a fuse. It's rated for 200 amps. It's a mega style fuse. So it probably most commonly has an AIC value of 2000 amps. So we can see the COM board down there, and it's now supported with the B-Series BMS, so that'll be interesting if we can actually parallel this with our JK inverter BMSs. So looking at the balance lead cables, you'll notice that the connectors are both white, but the shorter one can only reach here and the longer one can only reach over here. So how do you know which one goes to which PCB board? Because you can't go based off of color. Well, in this case, one is longer than the other. So the whiter connection, the white one, will go into the white connector on the A board, and the smaller connector on the longer cable goes over here to the B board, or the black connector. Now we're going to have to disconnect bus bar number 1. We've got our comms connector here. We're going to take off. Looking at the back, we can see it's a JK BMS. It's a B-Series with a 1 amp active balancer, 8S for 8 cells in the series, 20P, so that's 200 amps continuous power, and CR, so this has the CAN and RS485 communications. Here it has the 1 amp active balancer, 200 amp continuous, and 350 amp max surge. So I went and found my password locked, original old school B-Series BMS. You can see it's flat on the top, and the newer one has this indentation right here. And also you see on the back the ports. The display port is over here on the back on the newer B-Series BMS. Where over here it's on the front with the other ports. So with the comms, if this is version 15 or higher, hardware version, you can use the comms port with this and actually have it communicate with the other B-Series or JK inverter BMSs. So I'm excited to see if this will actually work and communicate with my other inverter BMSs. Just for fun, here we have all the BMS together, the OG B-Series BMS 4-8S, the newer B-Series BMS 4-8S with comms, the 48 volt B-Series BMS, and the latest version 19 inverter BMS. Much thanks to Andy from Off Grid Garage for explaining the comms on the B-Series BMS. Link to his video in the description below. You can see down there below there's 2 studs, one there and there's one right there by the fuse holder. That's where the BMS mounting plate fits onto. And you can see the pressure plate, if you want to call it that, is completely static. It's just fixed. So that's a very interesting design from what we've seen in previous boxes. Here is a close-up of the comms board removed from the case. This is the P-Link CR-version 2. I'm curious to see how much pressure is going to be on the cells since we don't have a pressure plate. Only one way to find out. Let's build it. So you can see on the battery terminal spanner bus bar here, you can see how off the marks are. That's because I torqued them down to 8 Newton meters. When I checked them with my torque wrench, they were about 4 Newton meters. Well, when I checked the bolts on the BMS, they were 8 Newton meters. So the bolts, they're all M6 bolts, and they all connect the bus bars to the BMS, to the terminals. So they should all be the same torque. So I went with the highest torque, which was on the BMS terminals themselves, so it should at least be that much. So I torqued everything to 8 Newton meters, so make sure to double check the torque on all the M6 bolts connecting the bus bars to the terminals to the BMS. Well, now I'm paranoid. I'm gonna have to check the torque on those M8 bolts for the fuse. So the 14mm nuts on the fuse were torqued to 8 Newton meters. Okay, first we'll put in the bottom epoxy board. Now the side pieces. So you'll notice, unlike the other boxes, there was no fixed metal divider plate. Instead, they gave us this epoxy board sandwich with the EVA tape in the middle. It goes like that, but we're going to need to put some cells in to hold it up. So we'll start here with our main positive right here. Now we can put in our second cell, which will be the main negative. For this build, I'm using EVE MB31 cells. And sort of work it in. It's going to be a tight fit with that epoxy board sandwich there, so kind of get it right there. You can't forget our front pieces, so leave a little bit of gap there. So I did this several different ways, and the best way to do it I found is to put this in first, the sandwich piece. Otherwise, if you try to put the cells in first and then try to shimmy this down in between the cells, it'll be just too much pressure because it's quite a tight fit, and you'll end up just scratching the coating off of the battery too. So I found this to be best. You just kind of work it in there. Yeah, it's quite a tight fit. Actually, that wasn't bad at all. It slid right in. Look at that. Okay, just double check the polarity, all the cells. I'll put a picture on screen. This is what it will look like. Time for the bus bars. I went ahead and secured the main negative and the main positive just so they're not flopping around. Go ahead and start placing our bus bars. I like to typically put just 2 bolts in. I do the outside bolts. When you put your PCB board down, right, you're going to have all your balance leads. So you're going to have to remove the bolts and then put them back on. So I just leave them off because this is where the balance leads will go. So right now we just want to secure the bus bars. We're going to skip over the bridge bus bar that goes here. We're going to do this last. We do that to reduce the voltage in the pack, so when we're working on the pack, we're only working, in this case, 12 volts and 12 volts versus 24 volts. So it's more safe to do it that way. Right, so I forgot the EVA tape, which I don't even know why they give us EVA tape in this kit because this is already so tight. I'm probably only going to get just one piece on each side, that's it. Be careful when you put these in, make sure you get them right because it is not easy to get them out. Just to get that little bit of compression, that little bit of space that's left. Let it sink back down. I'm not even going to attempt to put the rest of them in there. You could probably squeeze 2 in there, but it's going to be very, very tight. Yeah, you know what's funny? The smaller battery packs that you end up building, like I have a 12 volt pack I built, it just seems the smaller the pack, the harder it is to build. Because they do stuff like this where they try to just do this fixed compression, and you really have to just fight with the cells. Shit. Yeah, if you rock it back and forth, you can get the pad in there. That's it. At least with these cells, I don't know if they should all be the same width, but man, that is tight. So that's it. You learn something with all these batteries, you know, they're all slightly different. All right, that's a workout. I would say just put enough EVA tapes to where you have no movement in the cells. That should give you enough compression. Okay, we're back. We got all the bus bars on, and we have our outside screws on only. Now we're going to do a voltage check at this point. We want to make sure we have 12 volts on this side and we have 12 volts on this side. First 4 cells, we have 13 volts. That's good. Main positive of the 12 volt pack, 13 volts. Now if we put our bridge bus bar on just temporarily, now we're going to check from our main negative and our main positive. We should have about, what, 26 volts or something like that? Yep, 26 volts. So this pack is put together properly. So as I was screwing down the A board, I noticed, look at the tabs. These tabs right here, which are used to mount the epoxy board, which covers the entire pack. These tabs are directly over the bus bar. Now all it would take is a long screw to go down through and penetrate the insulation of the bus bar. Now you could potentially have a connection between the batteries and the chassis, which is not good. There's no reason to have these located right over the bus bar. These tabs should be either right here on the middle or on the outside here. So yeah, do not like that. These are okay. So when you mount the top cover epoxy board, you can use any number of these holes. So what I would actually do, if I were going to actually build this battery permanently, because I'm just going to take this down once I'm done, I would cut these off. I would cut this one off, this one off, this one off, and this one off, and just use these 4 center ones. Okay, so normally I put the temp sensors on last, but I'm going to go ahead and put them on now because there's just 2 of them. And per the instructions, they go right here. My buddy took my insulated screwdriver, so I have to use this one, unfortunately. We'll just put that on there, hand tight. Okay, so the balance leads are connected. We'll leave this one off for the bridge bus bar, and we can now connect our BMS minus. This is the minus for the BMS power. Negative, rather. Okay, I finished putting all the balance leads on the B PCB. So we got cell 8, 7, 6. And I put the extra, I put the missing screws in, the rest of the screws in the bus bars. So all we have to do now is just put our bridge bus bar in and torque the bolts down. So this time I'm going for 6 Newton meters. Okay, now we can run our fire extinguisher line. I'm going to run it right underneath these tabs so that you can have something to zip it to. Same thing, we'll just come across the top here, go right underneath these tabs. They give you extra line, a little bit extra this time around, so that's nice. I guess we'll just have to put it by the BMS. That'll be a good spot. In case the BMS catches fire. Can't find my small ones. Okay, now we can install the bridge bus bar. Got my screwdriver back. Now the pack is energized, 24 volts, so just keep that in mind. Now, if you're using single stud cells, the bridge bus bar will not work. The mains up here and all the connecting ones will work on single cell studs, but this one will not. You'll have to use a jumper cable. We got to get them to start sending 2 bus bar types, you know, or make a universal one. Perfect. Okay, before we connect up the BMS, we want to do one final voltage check. We're going to check our main positive here and our main negative here. We should get about 26 volts. 26 volts. Perfect. Time to connect up the BMS. So the first and shorter cable goes right here. Make sure you do the A board first. And then we can do the B board second. Alright. I left this out for the end because I wasn't sure if this went this way or this way. I figured because the button is typically on the right that it went this way. And once you snap this in, it doesn't look like it will come out very easily. So, plus you want to be able to make your connections. So, run your wire through the front. This connection is very delicate, so just be careful. There you go, that's it. Alright, here we go, a big moment. Let's turn it on. Wow, that was fast. That BMS turned on really quick. See if it gives us a state of charge. So error 9 is bus soft start errors, so like a bad connection. So I checked inside and take a look. I think what happened when I was trying to make the connections, I accidentally disconnected the connector from the BMS. Turn it on. There it is. 69% state of charge. Okay, now we can pop this guy in here. This is the first time I've used this 3-inch display, and it's pretty nice. It gives you all the basic information. It gives you your state of charge, your voltage, and your incoming or outgoing current. So if we look close at the display, you'll notice two state of charge graphs. You've got one which represents the pack state of charge, and one which represents the cell average voltage state of charge. So you can see at a cell level what the state of charge is, and also at the battery at the same time. Remember earlier I said I didn't know what these screws are for? Well, these are the other screws for the rest of the holes. So it'll come pre-installed with 4 of the screws, and then you have to add the other 4 screws. Wait! What the f, bro? That is not cool. That's my point. Look, the markers right here. Oh, I see what happened. Look at that. Yeah, so I disconnected the bridge bus bar in the back. Wow. Wow, that's quite a spark there. Look at, I gotta get the camera, hold on. Not sure if you can see it, but see the rail? It's all burnt. That's where the temp sensor touched the rail. That screw is protruding through the threads on the other side of that tab. If I were to slide the bus bar in there, now it's insulated, so it's not going to do anything, but it's hitting the screw. So what we can do for this, besides not using that screw, is put the bus bar upside down so that it clears the screw. Yeah, let's check it out. Every single one of these that were on the 4 corners, this one, this one, this one, and this one, definitely got nipped by those screws. Not good. Okay, so I got everything back together, and I want to just show you the changes that I made. So all the bus bars are now upside down, the ones on the outer corners where the tabs are. And I routed the wires for the temp sensor through the channel and away from the rail, here and here. And I made sure that all the balance leads are also routed through these little channels in the rail, so when you put the epoxy board on top, nothing's getting pinched. Reviewed the video, and I found out what happened exactly. When I was putting this screw in, that was the initial spark. You can see the little There's little marks right there, 2 little marks. So it was a cell short. It jumped from here to the rail, went through the rail, through the chassis, and then it found basically the nearest path back to complete the circuit, which happened to be the temp sensor mount, which was touching the rail. So that was my mistake for having that touch. So it was a cell short. Nothing traveled down the rails, nothing traveled down the wires, down the traces into the BMS, nothing like that. It was just basically shorting the terminals of the cell. So low voltage, but a lot of current. Okay, looking at the BMS, we got all our cells are still registered, 1 to 8, and battery T1 and battery T2 are still functioning. So apparently everything's good. Right, so I played a game of tic-tac-toe, and we've marked the ones that we're going to use, which are the 4 center ones. We're not going to use those outside ones at all. Alright, no more sparks. If you notice this bus bar right here, it's practically touching the BMS. Now it is insulated, so it shouldn't be a problem, but these BMS, if you use these for any length of time, and you notice at full capacity, these can get quite hot. So it's really reliant on the integrity of the insulation to not melt and cause a short. So this is something I noticed. So I was able to kick it out a little bit with the screwdriver. So I got about 1/4 of an inch space now. So it's a good thing they're flexible. Alright, so I got the battery hooked up to the trusty solar hand truck power station. This was actually the first solar system I built, this hand truck system, and it was really fun building, and I used it for about 1.5 years straight. Good little system. I don't have a build video, but I do have a schematic of how I built it on my website. I'll put a link in the description below. So I went ahead and configured the BMS. We set our capacity and our battery type. Let's see if we can draw some power from this battery. $1,500 heat gun. We're pulling about 1,400 watts from the battery, about 70 amps. Let's do something fun. Okay, so I have the grid input hardwired to this extension cord. We're going to plug this inverter into the output of the big 48 volt system over here. So we'll be charging from those inverters through this inverter into the battery. I think it's configured for 20 amps. Okay, there's 20 amps. It's not much. Let's kick it up a notch. 40, 50, 60 amps. We're almost to 40 amps. Shunt says 43 and the display says 43. Inverter says 50 already. 58 on the inverter. 60. About a 5 amp discrepancy right there. Let's see how much we're pulling off the other battery. Well, 2,500 watts, but look, it's still, I'm powering other stuff, but 50 amps only off the other system. For 2,500 watts. And here we're pushing 1,500 watts, and it's 55 amps. So you can see the efficiency between 48 volt and 24 volt. Electricity, when it comes to batteries, is just like data, right? We're moving power from this battery right here into this battery, but there's efficiency loss from converting to DC to AC to AC to DC. So it's very inefficient, but it's just like moving data around. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is see if we can monitor the battery in standalone mode. We'll take the RS-485 USB cable that's currently on our 48 volt battery bank. We'll plug it in over here to the PC port. Okay, so in the JK BMS settings, UART protocol 1 is set to 1, JK Modbus, and CAN protocol is set to 3, GROWAT. We're only concerned with this first one, UART 1, because we're only doing PC monitoring at this point. And our device ID is set to 3. Okay, so we'll change our device ID to 3 and click connect. And there it is, 75% steady charge, voltage 26 volts, 26.46, and we have all our cells 1 to 8. Under settings, here is where you can change the BMS parameters as well as import-export settings. Under control, we have the same settings as the BMS app, where you can do things like turn on and off the charge and discharge MOSFETs. And it looks like we are running hardware version 19 and software version 19 as well. And here is where we can update the firmware. Okay, so now I'm going to connect the comms on this battery to our battery bank. So we're connecting a 24 volt battery to a 48 volt battery, comms only, not physically connecting, so we can see if we can monitor them all at the same time. So I'll take this out of here, plug it back into our master battery on our 48 volt inverter BMS battery bank. So this jumps to here and jumps to the bottom battery, and then this will be the third battery. Plug that into the RS485 port right here. Okay, everything's connected. We changed our device ID to 1 since we're connecting back to our main battery bank. This is the master battery, this one here. Let's click connect. And there it is, device 3. So we have nothing on device 2, so we have 0, which is the first 48 volt battery. We can see 52 volts. The second one down here, 52 volts. Nothing on device 2. And the device 3, it's our 24 volt battery. You can see 26 volts here. So we're monitoring JK inverter BMS and a B-Series BMS all on the same bus. How cool is that? JK, man, I swear, that just works. Let's try something. So you'll notice with the 24 volt battery, the B-Series BMS, there is no dip switch to change the ID. Unlike the inverter BMS, where we have the dip switches there, you can see there, to set the ID. So how do you set the ID? Well, you set it in the BMS JK Bluetooth software. So right now we have it set, our device ID is set to 3. We're going to change it to 2. Now watch what happens when I hit OK. Watch what happens on our screen here. Just like that, it went from 3 to 2. It's that easy. So 0, 48 volts, 1, 48 volts, 2, 24 volts. Alright, let's talk about this battery kit. For one, I do like that it's a nice sturdy box, but not a lot of people are building 24 volt batteries these days. But it's certainly better than having your batteries out in the open. I do like that it comes with flexible bus bars, and I do like that it comes with a fire extinguisher installed, even though it's not located in the best of locations. We've seen in the vertical box they have the fire extinguisher mounted in the battery cell compartment, and there's a hole in the epoxy board so the extinguisher can peer into the box and have direct access to the cells. I like that it comes with comm support and can communicate with other JK BMSs, such as the JK Inverter BMS. Alright, so that's pretty much where the likes stop. This box has some issues, to say the least. So starting with the cells, they're a bit difficult to install with the fact that there's no removable pressure plate. So I would definitely like to see a removable pressure plate in this box in the future. No DC rated external breaker. You know, Yixiang really set a precedent with their vertical box having the internal fuse and the DC rated breaker on the outside. With that allows you to disconnect the battery from your system for maintenance and gives you that extra layer of protection. So the next one might be a little OCD, but the positive bus bar that runs right along the BMS chassis plate, touching it, we saw how thin the insulation is on these bus bars. So if there's an opportunity to design it in such a way that that bus bar will not touch the BMS, then, you know, why not do it? Finally, the elephant in the room, those screw mount tabs are straight up dangerous. I wonder if when Yixiang designed this box, they designed it for the flat bus bars, which would allow a little clearance. But until they fix this issue, I can't really recommend this box. But if you really need something and you don't want to have your cells out in the open, it is an option that's out there. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want to wait for the next one, check out this video right here.